Hey everybody, Cyberhuman Frontiers on the 24th of April. Thanks for joining us. We're going to dig a little bit deeper on this episode into what it really is a few peripheral things that all kind of come together. We've talked about molecular biology. We've talked about the computer mapping of genes, and we've kind of been all around the various pieces of this whole puzzle that come together. We talked a little bit last week. We featured people who work in plasmid creation laboratories, and we have so much to cover tonight. I don't really want to review it exactly right now, but it's in our last episode, which you can find. And before we really get going, we're just going to get the community guidelines disclaimer out of the way as fast as I can possibly read it. The points of view and purpose of this video is not to induce fear, incite violence, or bully, harass in any way, but to share thoughts and exchange them with other like-minded individuals curious about the subject. This is to encourage conversation and awareness. The opinions expressed in this video belong to the persons espousing them and not are a representation of the channel Cyberhuman Frontiers. None of our videos claim to give medical, legal, political, or financial advice. This content is created entirely for your entertainment. This video and our channel in general may from time to time contain certain copyrighted works not specifically authorized to be used by the copyright holder, but which we believe in good faith are protected by federal law and the Fair Use Doctrine for more of the reasons noted in the Copyright Act of 1976. And you will find links to our shared content here in the description below the video. And so, kind of going to get started here. We have learned a huge amount in the last decade and more about what nature has already built for us in our bodies and in our brains. Now, as science opens that can and peers into the ingredients inside the can of life, if you will, we're moving forward now into bravely into the science of modifying, redesigning, and enhancing, editing, changing DNA. One expedient way to do this is using the body's machinery, which we talked a little bit about last week when we were talking about utilizing plasmids designed to bring particular genetic code into cells. There are two distinctly different areas of this, and I want to try to show the contrast so that I don't want it to be me that tells you what the differences are, but I want to make a differentiation between things that are more mechanical and electronic, like hard devices, versus the softer yet more powerful method of getting into an organism and changing its function or its characteristics, which is more at the genetic level. Two different areas. They can both accomplish some of the same thing. In my view, they probably will somewhat merge as time goes forward, but it's been tackled from two different angles, which are actually, now that I think of it, currently converging together, all for the purpose of getting into that code of life, the software, if you will, and changing it for various purposes, whatever they might be. Enhancement, disease mitigation, repair, growing cell tissue that wasn't there for whatever reason, might have gotten wiped out by something. Enhancements of all sorts, strength, mental acuity, adding memories in without having to go through the rigors of learning or practicing things. All these things are becoming possible and are within, they're within reach now. And if you're just joining now on our shows, you might want to take a look at some of the past ones, because we have gone into some significant detail on some of this stuff. And there's a lot, man, it's huge. So we're, excuse me, we are looking forward to presenting what we have tonight. It's going to be an overview, and I just want to give a holler out to my good buddy TMC with me here. He's over on the lower right of your screen, and on the upper left, what you'll find is it's an artist's concept. It was probably done in Photoshop, actually, of what is possible coming forward What you see there is the body of a cat, yet with the head of a dog. Now, it looks crazy, you know. It looks like just some artist got busy with graphics. But you know what? This is not impossible. Now, I don't know whether that creature would be viable because nature designed a cat to kind of be proportioned and equipped with the tools proper for the whole organism. So you do a modification like that, it might or might not be as survivable. But as far as being able to build organisms like this by rebuilding the code and then inoculating it into an egg, implanting it, bringing it to gestation, and out pops a combination dog-cat. This is not impossible by any means, by any stretch of the imagination. It's been possible for a period of years. So now, if we fast forward to today, just look at how much more advanced the science may have become. TMC, how you doing?
I'm good, Indy. Doing great.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. Cool stuff, huh?
Yeah, this stuff is amazing.
So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to kind of tackle from, that mechanical standpoint. I want to try to have everyone have in the back of their minds as we survey all this information, the differentiation between the exterior hard world of silicon wires and transmitters and computers and all that stuff to what can be in a body, and what there's literally a feverish amount of work in a whole lot of institutions working at building integratable devices. And what they're doing is they're sort of transitioning more into being, instead of made out of silicon, metal, and coils and things like that, they're actually being constructed with biomolecules, and that's where we get into molecular biology a little bit, which we were talking about last week. So here is an old, I have to stress old, this is 10 years old. They were working on this then, and they may have brought this about as far as they want to. And now, again, things are moving more toward the idea of, instead of having to build something like this, just rewrite the code for the genes and get them into a cell and let it build what you want it to build. So anyway, old article. Researchers at Harvard and MITRE produced the world's first programmable nanoprocessor. Small, very small. And I don't have the scale here. But the picture is on the right-hand side of your screen. So, engineers and scientists collaborating at Harvard and MITRE developed and demonstrated the world's first programmable nanoprocessor. The groundbreaking computer system, described in a paper appearing in the journal Nature, represents a significant step forward in the complexity of computer circuits that can be assembled and synthesized from nanometer scale components. And nanometers are really small. These ultra tiny nanocircuits can be programmed electronically to perform a number of basic arithmetic and logic functions. They could do that 10 years ago. So this work represents a quantum jump forward in the complexity and function of circuits built from the bottom up, demonstrates that this bottom-up paradigm, which is distinct from the way that commercial circuits are built today, and hint, 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 that's where molecular biology comes in, bottom-up, okay? So, you can yield nanoprocessors and other integrated systems of the future, says principal investigator Charles Lieber, who holds a joint appointment at Harvard's Department of Chemistry and Chemical Biology and School of Engineering and Applied Sciences. And that's, that kind of gives you a little bit of an idea. So this, what you're looking at right here, if anybody, I've been kind of an electronics guy back from when electronics was really big discrete components. And it's really the same idea of how circuits and gates, logic gates and amplifiers and resistors and all those things are built, but making them so small that they are literally the size of a millimeter, millimeter sized and having functionality, a lot of functionality. Can read a little bit more of this. The work was enabled by advances in design and synthesis of nanowire building blocks. Okay, so we have talked about, again, in previous episodes, the idea of building nano-conducting wires out of I would say hybrid biological and metallic carrying components in cells, in bodies. We've talked about that. And we've broached the concept of how it is now within the reach of technology to build a whole new wiring system of sorts in parts of an organism that will be self-assembling out of nano-sized devices, and they will be small enough that they won't impede the functioning of the organism or kill it or obstruct things in any big way. So they've been working in that field for quite a while. And now I think we can probably skip forward a little bit. Keeping in mind, this being an old article, and we're going to bring it up to date pretty quick here. For the past 10 to 15 years, researchers working with nanowires and carbon nanotubes, carbon being an organic molecule, by the way, which lends itself very well to being integrated into a design regime for constructing some sort of a network in a cell, in a living body. All right. And there's a purpose for all this. The purpose is to be able to get in there and either monitor, modify, or take control of the processes of life, cellular functions. So we have shown that this limitation can be overcome and are excited by prospects of exploiting the bottom-up paradigm of biology in building future electronics. And he goes into a little bit of detail, which I'm just going to skip right over. I've got the link to this in the show notes below the video. So I can skip over this new nanoprocessor. Yep. We don't need to go any further on that one. So I'm going to have another one here that I'm going to put up in just a second. So going back to the top, so you know what that was. That was researchers at Harvard and MITRE produced the world's first programmable nanoprocessor 10 years ago. So just put on your science fiction thinking cap and imagine what could be today. Because one of our little mottos for these shows that we do is science fiction comes true. Yeah, and it really does. Really does. Absolutely amazing stuff. All right.
Well, the new processors, Indy, they're at the nanoscale.
They are.
Like the Apple Bionic chips. They're way past the A11, A12s. They probably have a whole other series now at this point.
Yep.
Those are all made with nanoscale transistors.
Right, and that's in consumer electronics, basically.
Right. That's right.
That's not even
just to full circle, right? 10 years ago, they announced they're able to do this kind of stuff or something similar.
Right.
And now, it's proliferated out everywhere. They exist everywhere at this point.
Yep, exactly. So, all right. So that was more from the mechanical, nutsy boltsy physical side of things. Now I'm going to put up another article. All right. And this one's a little bit newer. Not much newer, though. This one's only 9 years old. But this is just to illustrate the two directions, the two angles from which they've been working to advance the materials science and working to develop or to fill in the blanks on their understanding of what they need to do and how all of this stuff works. And the target always seems to be the molecules of life. That it's pretty much what it mostly seems to be. And so two articles from different points of view from approximately 10 years ago, and they have been converging together for 10 years. So here we go. This one's from 2012. Reading Life's Building Blocks. Harvard researchers developed tools to speed DNA sequencing. And you might ask, why would we want to speed DNA sequencing? Well, if you are a software programmer and you want to write something, you can just start with your blank screen on your console and just start coding. But if something's already built and you want to know how it works and you want to modify it, then you got to get in there and you get somebody hands you a piece of code. And I'm not a real big software guy, so I may misquote, but someone will hand you a piece of code and you'll need to decompile it, pull it apart, and look at it at the programmer's level. And then you would want to edit that code for the purpose of changing the function of that program or application. And then one would want to recompile it so that it can run on a machine. And so this is just kind of like the biological version of that. Step one was in dissecting that code, that sequence of DNA digits, if you will. So here they one step closer in evolution of DNA sequencing, following the development in a Harvard lab of a tiny device designed to read the minute electrical changes produced when DNA strands are passed through tiny holes called nanopores. And yeah, I won't get into it, but that is how they got to be able to read base pair by base pair. And when I use the word base pairs, that means each individual digit on a DNA strand, a DNA molecule, which makes up your genes. So they would string these things through these nanopores, and as they're passing through the nanopore, they can read the electrical characteristics of each base pair as they go through. And I could probably find an animation for this. I have one, but it might take a little while to find it. Just visualize putting things through a sifter, and as you're sifting, you're logging what each piece is that's going through that sifter one by one, and then storing it in computer memory. And gradually, they've mapped the whole human genome and a whole lot of other animals too. So they've got the code. Now that they have the code, they now start trying to figure out what piece of code does what in the organism, and then start drawing parallels between that code in that organism and the code in another one. And then they can start tinkering and having fun, like experimenters love to do, and take the code from one species and edit the other species and insert a splice of code from one into another one. And then the first thing that they'll want to do is see if the creature still lives, or if they mess the code up so bad that it's no longer viable and it just dies, or it does live and it now has cross functionality between species. So it's kind of like, it's real interesting kind of laboratory work. So anyway, this just showed how they were able to get started on learning and reading what all of those base pairs were, and then sequence them. And they've got libraries upon libraries of code now. Anyway, Charles Lieber comes up again in this. And as of 9 years ago, I'll just read this. Somebody, I don't know who quoted this. The quote is, "Right now, we're limited in our ability to perform DNA sequencing. Current sequencing technology is where computers were in the 50s and 60s. It requires a lot of equipment and is very expensive. But just 50 years later, computers are everywhere, even in greeting cards. So you would now apply that type of a progression to where we're at with DNA sequencing now, and it is definitely way ahead to the point that it really is usable in a big way." All right, so any comments on that one, TMC?
No, anything with Lieber kind of catches my attention. I think there's a lot more going on with that guy than what they publicly arrested him for. Financial failure to disclose certain financial transactions.
So you're rather liberal in your interpretation of what his current doings might be.
Oh, indeed.
Yeah, I figured.
I like that. That's nice.
Okay. So I got this, which is kind of cool stuff. This is a short little video, but we got, we don't have to read all the time. We got some stuff here. Let me get this thing up before I describe it. Hold on one second. Please stand by. Okay. All right. There is a ton of stuff you can look at out on YouTube if you're interested. And there's a whole ton of documentation that you can read about, as well as links to videos that you can find at https://humaninternet.org, which TMC maintains for your interest, entertainment, and benefit. The link to that is in the show notes below. Anyway, what we got here is from Tech Planet, okay? And it's not long, and I'm starting about halfway through it because we got a ton of stuff to go through. And I'm at TMC after this. I might, I don't know, I got more stuff, but I can turn it over to you if you want. So here we go. What we're seeing, before we even run it, what we are seeing here is red blood cells, called in medical speak erythrocytes, and we're seeing some sort of a critter here. I don't know what that is, but it kind of looks like it might be a foreign body. It doesn't look like a white blood cell. I don't know what it is. And we are seeing a nano-sized device, which has a way of identifying this and differentiating between it and a red blood cell. And I don't know what it's going to do with its little grippers that it's got coming out, but it looks like it means business. So it is you know, at the nano scale, devices that are built, and this is an artist's interpretation of it. It doesn't look quite as beautiful and streamlined as this in real life. When you look at, you know, a sample of what this would be, which would be red blood cells and plasma, it kind of looks like a big murky soup. All right. And then in the back of this, we see motility appendages so that this thing can steer itself to where it wants to get to. So let's run this. It's short, but he does a pretty good job narrating. And the title of this was 7 Crazy Breakthroughs. So I skipped 3, but I just might let it play for a couple more. Here we go.
Researchers have developed an algorithm for nanorobots, and this allows the bots to communicate between each other and to the outside world. Theoretically, this would allow the bots to actually target cancer cells or deliver drugs to very specific areas in the body. They have also developed a propulsion system which utilizes a capacitor as an energy source. And theoretically, this could target and be powered from higher glucose cancer cells. Now, it's still a proof of concept, but if this pans out, it could be really amazing. Now we're going to get into...
This was last year, just in case anybody was interested on the time frame for this. Now he's going to get into something relative to DNA, so check this out.
Weird stuff, and this is a little bit beyond my comprehension, but it's called the Dna Nanopore. I had never really covered DNA before, but it's an excellent substrate for computing, and it has been used to implement a diverse set of mathematical problems, logic circuits, and even robotics. This is yet another bot which is built upon DNA sequencing. Ultimately, it's 9 nanometers wide, and it can actually go into individual disease cells and allow diagnostics at the singular cell level. Apparently, it can be controlled by programmable flaps, which are equipped with a size-selective gating system for the translocation of macromolecules. But I have not seen any confirmation on this claim. Regardless, I'm pretty sure we're going to see more DNA types of machines in the future. We get to number 2, and I guess you can call these cyborg cellular structures. These are basically hybrid cellular machines injected with nanoelectronics. The stem cell grows around the mesh, and a miniature biosensor is formed. One neat thing about this experiment is that the stem cells can form into other cells. So with the integrated sensor, scientists can understand more about the development process of a stem cell. Now, once again, this is...
I will certainly let him continue with this, but if you're following what he's talking about here, it's at yet one level deeper and one level more powerful. So we're into working with and probably understanding what stem cells would normally do and then modifying that. But we're now working at the level of intracellular programming versus those things that look kind of like little like spaceships that we saw in the last couple slides. So anyway.
It's where a pre-programmed algorithm can come into play. and it might be able to tell the stem cell what to convert to in the future. Now, this type of stuff makes me go into conspiracy mode a lot, and there might be a half cybernetic immortal human being out there already. We get to number 1, and it's the Xenobot. Once again, I'm going to cover these weird Metroid things that scare me a little bit. Xenobots are stem cells from frog embryos. These cells are differentiated into mobile heart and inanimate skin cells. These two different types of cellular structures are ultimately configured into one organic machine which can move around. But
I'm going to pause right there for a minute. TMC, we could go off on our soapbox here for a second, but nature has it's got its own algorithms. It's been refining them for millennia, and so he's speaking about how nature has little by little kind of sorted out what works and what doesn't, usually based on survivability. There's mutation that occurs, minor variation, change, and literally error that occurs in the duplication of the code from parent to descendant. And as that happens, it gives rise to different things. Some of them will have stumbled across a beneficial change, and those will then outcompete the others that are now, no longer as powerful, or they're inferior somehow. So nature has done this over a very long period of time. And what we're doing now in labs is, relative to geological time, it is extremely fast, like lightning fast in comparison to that, which is okay. It certainly offers us a lot of power and facility to do things, but we sure do need to make sure that we know what we're doing and what the ramifications of all that are to the organism in general, or to the whole, to all life on the planet in general. It's things that really do matter. So he's going to wrap up here in just a minute.
this was not enough for the team, and they ran an evolutionary algorithm which mimics natural selection. It was discovered that particular configurations can perform certain jobs better than others. So in the end, you get a self-repairing locomotive organic machine. Personally, I kind of see this leading to organic spaceships that we fly around in, or maybe we're just going to convert ourselves to the Zerg in StarCraft. I'm not really sure, but anyways, it's pretty weird. As a conclusion to this video, I would say that the future nanorobot would likely be powered by glucose or maybe some type of RF frequency. It will also have swarm integration and communication. Right now, the front-running structural candidates include DNA machines, programmed cells, and even basic magnetic bots. Evidently, we know...
He did say a couple words there: smart integration and communication. He goes pretty fast. He packs a lot of information. Let me just back it up to that previous frame. There's only a few seconds left here. Custom cells, magnetic bots, glucose or RF frequency powered. What a novel idea. Powering these things from glucose, because that's in your blood. That's in much of your intracellular and extracellular fluid. So if they're able to build something that can get its power source from glucose, then they'll be self-powered. And they won't use much power because they're very small. And let's let him finish up here.
Running structural candidates include DNA machines, programmed cells, and even basic magnetic bots. Evidently, we know how to...
Now, what you're seeing... I'm sorry to interrupt you. What you're seeing on your little screen here is, again, this is an artist's interpretation, but this is a double helix of DNA, and that is another word for that is your genes, your chromosomes, and we've got this as homed in on a very, very specific place where there are two base pairs, all right, and there they are. And I'm going to guess that maybe it's going to take those out, since I see jagged edges here. And I'm going to guess that since it doesn't have anything else with it, that it's going to splice this together. And once it gets done with this, the job isn't done, because then this part of the DNA is going to be missing it's going to be shorter than its complementary mirror image part. And this little robot is going to have to go over to the other side of this that has the other two mating base pairs and splice those out as well, edit those out. So you're seeing half the job done. And then he finishes up. This is from Tech Planet.
Build these things right now, and it's only going to be a matter of time until we perfect these machines. So, once again, thanks for watching the video. Please like it if you enjoyed it, and also make sure to subscribe to my channel.
And, I'm going to go ahead and give him a like. He's had quite a good number of views, and I liked that. Didn't you like that? I liked it. And his description down here, the future of nanorobotics has arrived, and it's both frightening and amazing. Let's look at some emerging technologies. That link is in the show notes below. And let me retire that link so I don't get confused and play them over again. All right. So bringing us up to the present, TMC, should I go in the direction now of the Broad Institute and their latest, or do we want to get into anything else? I do have plenty of other stuff here. All right, well.
I don't know, Indy. That's, it's an interesting piece of news if you have all the pieces kind of put together. I think we should share that. It's just an interesting piece of news.
All right, the Broad Institute.
Yeah.
You vote yes. Okay.
We should. Yeah.
I vote yes. Be aware that I did have a couple of other things, and we can get to them after if we have time. We can get into them after this, which are more along the slightly macroscopic scale of I don't know, implantable intelligent devices. Let's just leave it at that. And the links are there for you. So anyway, we're going to go to this, which I find to be quite interesting. If you know what I mean, I find this to be rather interesting. Okay. I think I got that sized reasonably right. Okay. And this is fairly recent. It's just a couple weeks ago. All right. And we can take turns even reading through this if you want. All right. The Broad Institute launches the Eric and Wendy Schmidt Center to connect biology and machine learning for understanding the programs of life. Now, if it was a quiz question and I didn't tell you what it was, we know that what the programs of life are is what? DNA, genes, genetics, the code. All right. So as we read something like this, I kind of keep an eye on the players and the money and the direction and what the disclosed intent of the whole operation is versus some of the other possibilities for cross-disciplinary collaboration with perhaps the military or big tech giants. I think of all those things and I look for the opportunity to connect the dots because usually there are connecting lines between dots. We've seen it over and over again where there is that kind of cross-pollination. Okay, so I will start here. $150 million endowment from Eric and Wendy Schmidt. This center will create a new field of interdisciplinary research aimed at improving human health. Yay! In celebration of the Schmidt gift, the Broad Foundation will make an additional $150 million, bringing it up to a grand total of $300 million, contributing to the Broad Institute's general endowment. Okay. Both MIT and Harvard are participating in this, and they announced today the launch of the center. It will catalyze new scientific discipline at the intersection of biology and machine learning. It's based in Cambridge, Massachusetts, at the Broad Institute, and it will be bringing together a global and collaborative network across academia and industry. Okay, so a lot of people are going to want to visit there from time to time or exchange information. To promote interdisciplinary research between data and life sciences to transform biology and improve human health. And that's all repetition, so we'll just skip right on. 2 recent revolutions inspired the creation of the Schmidt Center. 1, the exponential growth and widespread adaptation of data technologies like machine learning and cloud computing, and the dramatic advances in generating massive amounts of data about living systems through next-generation DNA sequencing, single-cell genomics, and advanced medical imaging, all of which we have spotlighted in previous episodes. Here we are, tooting our own horn. But you know, TMC, we really have spotlighted in detail some of these patents and some of these devices and the
Who's Eric Schmidt?
Oh, gee, I don't know. He's the past CEO of
Alphabet.
Yeah,
Google, Alphabet.
Yeah, he's the big G. He's the
former Bell Labs associate.
Yep.
He's been around for a while. And
he's an older guy. He's got a lot of connections.
Yeah, but when you think about the next question,
a boatload of money.
What's Google? What is Google?
It is well, they offer you the service of being able to find whatever little widget you want to find, but they're basically a data acquisition and cataloging company. Their business is in gathering data about everything about this world, particularly people and their behaviors.
That's one piece of their business.
And what else? Yep, there's more.
Yeah, they're in the business of exchanging information.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
In the digital space. And then everything that's associated with that, what's required to actually make that happen. And in the end, really what it is it's a very, very monolithic structure that's more powerful than just about every country on the planet. That's what Google is. And so Google is partnering with the Broad Institute, which is a partnership primarily between Harvard and MIT, where they can fuse together material sciences, biology,
and life sciences. Right. That's right.
And anything else, and put it all together under a single roof. And you're talking top tier schools who get funding for, or by, I should say, any 3-letter government agency who would provide funding in their fields. They qualify for it.
So you really
regularly get it.
Yeah, TMC. You really. I mean,
pull up the Broad Institute. Like if you go to their homepage and see what they do.
I can get that up. Yep.
Yeah, and the reason why I'm saying all this right now is what you're really seeing here is Google.
Okay.
Forming a partnership.
While you talk, I'll have the directory up so people can see it while you're speaking.
With top tier colleges, top tier research and development, who are regularly providing technology to government and military, etc.
Data sciences, check these out. Data sciences, okay, that's right up the alley of Google. Genetic perturbation and genomics. This starts to get into more the molecular biology level again. Okay, and genetic perturbation, if you're really analyzing it, that is at the molecular biology level. Imaging, which we featured some of the advances in imaging from, you're going to remember her name. Who's that lady? It was like 7 episodes ago.
Was it Mary Lou Jepsen?
That's right. Metabolomics, okay, and proteomics. I'm not going to claim to know what either of those disciplines mean. Disease areas, and
do you think this partnership sort of looks like or similar to this partnership between big pharma and big tech. When you look at these categories that you just were talking about, all of it medically based, that's all pharma. That's all medicine. It's all Western based,
That's right.
pharma. And so that's where this technology or this science, so to speak, would go out of this institute.
If you're good at reading,
big tech sort of marry up to it. This is one of
absolutely.
those.
Yeah. If you're good at reading between the lines, which we all are, over the last few years we've become very good at reading between the lines. And we talk about the multiple large concerns that are focusing on this, or at least placing a certain amount of emphasis on what this institution is the hub for. Collaborating, the collaboration between technological companies, computer science, and biology. Like this one phrase here, when I see this thing, not that, but this right here, when I see this, I basically, this ultimately improve human health. I ask myself the very cynical and skeptical question, which is, for the average person, how much of this will ever be something that can be delivered to them in a situation of need? And how much of it is for much more of a big picture of just promoting the science or promoting the collaboration? And the amount that trickles down versus the amount that's spent, I'm just a little bit dubious of it, if you know where I'm going with that. All right. I think, some of the people in the bottom tiers of our society will not be able to benefit from very much of what comes out of this.
Did you get the link that I just sent you?
I can. I can get it.
I sent it to you in Zoom.
Yep. Did you send it to, let's see, send it to the non-host. Oh yeah, I see it. Yeah, send it to the other one and I can put it up.
Okay.
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah, so these are, very well-trained and very prestigious people who are involved in this. And some of them have more than just a little bit of money. Okay, I mean, they're talking extremely wealthy, extremely well-connected people. And not that I don't mind that about other people and their good fortune, but they've kind of developed a little bit of a reputation that they are a little bit separate from the average person, shall I say, just to keep it simple. Today so what an honor is Eric Schmidt. He writes, "What an honor for me to be associated with such a profoundly important institute. Thank you." Yep, there it is. It's very recent, very, very recent occurrence that happened here. So yeah. Yep, congratulations. These are some of the people that are, I would say, potential collaborators or other people or peers in the field or in associated fields.
So do you see what he's being congratulated for?
The next chair of the Broad Institute Board of Directors, succeeding Louis V. Gerstner.
Who's Louis V. Gerstner? I'm going to look up Louis V. Gerstner, but
yeah, look
so
that
this
up.
guy is going to be the next head. He's going to be the next. Eric Schmidt is set to be the next head of the Broad Institute,
succeeding Louis V. Gerstner. Yes,
and the Broad Institute, I think. No,
while you look it up,
it was the McGovern Institute.
While you look it up, I'll keep reading, and I really encourage everybody to just think. Look at the dots, get them in your mental snapshot picture imager in your mind, and then look at whether you can make any connections between, one group and another group and what they could or might be motivated to do, which is sometimes in a little bit of departure from whatever the press release is. So I'll go on here. Until now, the two fields are data technology and DNA sequencing. So until now, yeah. Did you get it?
Yeah. Guess who this guy is? The one who Eric is replacing, Mr. Schmidt.
I have no clue.
Google
Gerstner,
CEO,
I don't know who he is.
Yeah. So Eric S. Lander. It says
Interesting.
here the founding director of the Broad Institute of MIT and Harvard. The founding director of the Broad Institute of MIT and Harvard will step down from his leadership role and serve as a scientific advisor to Joe Biden following his inauguration. So what was that guy's name that you just had on the screen?
Gerstner?
His last name was Gerstner. It wasn't Lander.
Oh, yeah, Lander. I'll put it back up again 1 second here.
Gerstner Jr. Yeah, never mind. It's a different guy. So he was just on the board of directors, chair of the board of directors versus a founding member.
Yep.
I'm digging in real time. Just anyway.
That's okay.
I'll stop derailing.
No, it's not. It's not derailing. That is how we discover things. But keep digging in the background.
Yeah.
So going on here, they're just going to go through this long descriptive about how they're converging these two areas of study. So the convergence of the two will create a new era of biology, and that's kind of what our whole theme of the show is tonight. This new era of biology is really a brave new world. It is one that is expected to yield a deep understanding of biological processes, with the ultimate aim of improving human health through more powerful disease prevention, diagnosis, and treatment. Well, yeah, all of those things can happen. I agree. And a whole lot of other things can happen too. Just know, I know it, you know it, and I'm not saying be paranoid. This show is for entertainment purposes only. We do not try to make people think about scary stuff, but there might be something out there that you'd want to consider that potentially, if it could get out of control, or depending on who's running it and what their aim is, could be quite harmful in one way or another. So this requires creating centers of excellence that can identify problems of fundamental biological importance and translate them into the language of machine learning, and then convene leading researchers from around the world to solve the problems collaboratively. This approach advances Eric and Wendy Schmidt's work through Schmidt Futures. Schmidt Futures? Okay. A philanthropic initiative they founded to bet early on exceptional people making the world better, particularly through innovative breakthroughs in science and technology. The Schmidt Center will be co-directed by Caroline Uhler, Associate Professor of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science and the Institute for Data Systems and Society at MIT, and also who is an associate member of the Broad Institute, and Anthony Philippakis. Yes. So we have a quote here from Anthony Philippakis. And I would just ask that people keep perspective, do your own thinking. Don't let someone else put thoughts into your mind. And I'm not going to say any more about it than that, but I will read his quote and make your own, utilize your own discernment, to quote a good friend of mine who's out in the chat right now. The pandemic has shown us that prioritizing science, innovation, and research is one of the great investments that we can make in our future. And then he goes on, much like Eli and Edie Broad saw the potential in creating the Broad Institute, I guess they're the original founders, Wendy and I believe this center has the promise to create a new field of science that could benefit human health in ways we can't even begin to imagine. Do you notice, TMC, do you notice when we read these things, they do have to keep putting, like, why do they need it? It should be transparent to anybody who's not skeptical that the only reason why anybody would do any of this would be to benefit human health in ways that we can't even imagine. Do you know what I'm driving at here? Why do they need to keep repeating that and repeating it through this press release?
I don't know. It's just rhetoric.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's I don't know. I'm skeptical, so
I'm skeptical
be the best
too.
person to ask that question to. Yeah.
If it were a self-standing fact about what all of industry and institutions do, then like this is almost selling you on it, right? It's like, they keep going back to this, selling you on the idea of how great it's going to be. And that rings to me a lot like marketing and how we are convinced. What's that?
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Man. Please continue.
What does it sound like to you?
This to me looks like a long-term positioning for information to be shared between some organizations that have been previously siloed from each other, big tech and
right,
big academia, and then government in the middle, because both big academia and big tech serve the government.
Right.
The government does not serve those two entities. Those two entities serve the government.
Well, it's cloudy. It's cloudy at who's serving who, because
I was gonna say, as soon as I said it, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm talking about Google for crying out loud, right?
Yeah.
So
it's very nebulous.
Touche, right, indeed. So what I see here is a long-term positioning such that over the next, decade, trade secrets, research and development, and all of the fruits that come with that are able to be moved around, discussed, siphoned off, exchanged, bought, sold, you name it, through this new partnership that is basically forming between government, big tech, and big
biology.
academia. Yeah.
Yep.
Particularly through this institute, which is a great place to go, considering it's a feed directly into MIT and Harvard. And when you start looking at what those schools put out as it relates to their impact on the world,
good amount of financial backing too, with all of the players involved. The overall endowments of MIT and Harvard, plus big donations, and who knows?
Who does Eric Schmidt know? You know what I mean?
Yeah, he knows every tech giant on the planet.
Way beyond just technology. He knows like
all the big players.
He knows like leaders of countries and leaders of industry across just about every industry.
It's true.
Yeah, I mean, it's Google, for crying out loud. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Anyway, to me, this is a huge deal. The former CEO of Alphabet, Google, because they really are one and the same, Eric Schmidt, is now the head of the Broad Institute, which is a highly specialized research and development laboratory and school that is a partnership between Massachusetts Institute of Technology and Harvard Institute.
So let me ask you a question. When you see a person whose character, the way that you define his characteristic profession was technology, and you see him cross over into something, I mean, we're talking crossing over into the life sciences, then what is his job really, or what is his
marry and merge and provide a healthy conduit for Google's artificial intelligence program to begin to function with those institutions, to begin to build connections and relationships with Harvard and MIT.
All right. Agreed. Now, what if we take another player and we see the same kind of thing that has happened with another player? You know who I'm thinking of? Does anybody know who I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of a computer guy. All right. So we see a guy named Bill Gates, who's, for the first, I don't know how many years.
Oh, man, you lost me a guy. I'm thinking like male, dude. Anyway,
well, here he goes, okay? way back in the infancy of computers, he was this young guy starting a computer software company, working with IBM. Who knows what he was doing with the Apple guys, but I don't think it was all good. Or at least not good for Apple initially. Maybe not. I don't know. Steve Jobs will never be able to tell us. But you see a guy who's started out in one distinctly defined field of professional endeavor, which is technology and computers. It's pretty hard stuff. It's electrical engineering and software. And he's branched out into, branched for whatever reason, branching out into something to do with farmland, branching out into vaccination science and immunology. So it just makes me scratch my head and say, well, what is it that these people really are specialists in? Or maybe they're more generalists than specialists, because they can migrate into a vastly different field, and somehow that is not only of interest to them, but it affords whatever that industry is some benefit from them being in it. And it just makes me wonder,
Yeah, man, at some point you amass enough wealth, and therefore by extension enough available time to do whatever you want with the energy that you've accumulated.
All right, so I guess I might try to imagine what it is that these individuals want based on where they
I don't want to try to imagine
realigned their alignments, because it seems like a rather aggressive change of career to go from a search engine company to director of merging tech and genetics. And it seems like a really big stretch to go from a computer company to, being, the vaccination expert for the whole world. And I mean, I certainly welcome input from either of these individuals that were just, mentally querying a little bit here. Anyway, a little bit more on the press release, if anybody's intrigued by this thing.
It's kind of creepy, though.
It's just strange. I don't know. Wow. They
going into bio, going into, like you said, life sciences is a great way to encapsulate that. That's a good one. I like that.
Well, it's what it is. So, all right. So they go on. It gets a little bit long-winded here. Catalyzing the new field, the center is organized around the principles of ethics and equity.
Whoa.
Really? Okay, well.
They're going to draw talent across the broad community, MIT, Harvard, and Harvard teaching hospitals. So they're going to take and use AI, the algorithms and machine learning here, right? And create a global collaborative ecosystem to catalyze this new field. What is?
Do you see where they've broached? You see where this broaches into a kind of a new area here now? Yeah. That little thing that I highlighted there. I'm going to just highlight it again while you expound on it a little bit.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Of course, they're going to say this. Their focuses are ethics and equity and engaging underrepresented groups. I mean, this is like the standard virtue signaling paragraph that precedes any progressive public statement. It's like the list of whatever.
Exactly.
It's
precisely.
It's fucking nauseating is what it is. It's nauseating. But anyway.
Makes me think. I think it should make us all think. It's just, I don't know, things to keep track of, who the players are, what they're doing, who's getting in together. Okay, so open source tools that will maximize benefit to all, inclusive of ethnicity. Well, I never really worried about ethnicity. It seems like everybody else is. It's not a big thing on my radar. Gender, it's not really a huge thing on my radar. Socioeconomic status, and more. It is crucial that we develop an inclusive network of partners from across the biomedical and clinical communities, as well as academia and industry, said Schmidt. By connecting clinicians with biotechnologists and data scientists trained in diverse areas from math to computer science, electrical engineering, and computational biology. Don't let that one blow right by you. Computational biology. All right. We can begin to gain unprecedented insights into the biology of cells, tissues, and organisms. Indeed, they can. And it's hugely powerful. And then they talk about some of the other institutions that they will be in either loose or close collaboration with. The link is below in the show notes, so I am really going to go through all that. It's just like, I don't know, I'll cherry pick here. Quebec, European, Oxford, Mayo Clinic, biopharmaceutical companies such as AstraZeneca, Novartis, and Genentech. And of course, don't forget Google Research, Microsoft, and DeepMind. Okay.
Crazy.
Do you want to read any of it? I could continue.
No, it's fine. We're, it says right down here, Schmidt Center by steering scientific strategy around the interface of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and biology by driving early discussions that led to the center's formation. The convergence of biology and machine learning is a powerful catalyst that will not only impact both fields, but also transform our ability to develop medicines for patients. Can you scroll up a little bit?
Yep. You know what? You can try this. I just gave you control of my screen, so you can move it wherever you want. You have to go into the screen, click your mouse once, and then you can scroll up or down. There you go.
Yeah, it lags a little bit, but that works.
It will do that.
Yeah.
Working.
So the convergence of biology and machine learning is a powerful catalyst that will not only impact both fields, but also transform our ability to develop medicines for patients. Advancing this convergence is at the forefront of our work in research and development at Genentech, and we're delighted to participate in this interdisciplinary initiative and to grow collaborative networks across the communities.
So what does this all mean to us? We don't need to just ask everybody who's enjoying the whole show here. Just think about what all of this might mean to us, the good and the bad, or the whatever. The time
Life sciences are in the midst of a data revolution.
Yeah, good one. Yep.
This is a unique moment in time, one where we can bring the modern tools of machine learning to bear on questions of fundamental importance to biology and medicine. The time is now right for biology to not only benefit from advances in machine learning, but to also drive the next generation of foundational mathematical insights. Biology and medicine are presenting deep and important questions and generating vast data sets. These represent the substrate for a new era of discovery at the interface of the life sciences and machine learning, says Yeshua Bengio, scientific director of the Mila and 2018 ACM/AM Turing Award recipient for his pioneering work on deep learning.
Heavy stuff.
Yeah. Talking about this taking place over many decades.
Yep. The beginning of a journey that will unfold over many decades. Scientists are close to cataloging the components of life, genes, proteins, and cells. Now, cataloging is one thing. And you know what comes right on the heels of that, which we've been covering, is the modification of those components of life. Which ones?
Right here.
Genes, protein. Yeah, go ahead.
It says here the mission here is to understand, analyze, and model the entire cell taking a fresh perspective inspired by discrete mathematics and computer science, as well as the three-dimensional time-varying physical models.
Yep.
Three-dimensional time-varying physical models, meaning how
Real
they function,
time. Real
how
time.
they function over time. That's right.
Yep.
These models will lead to new ways to manipulate cells and their internal structures and pathways. Hello, Google.
Wow.
This is, coming from the people who develop things like, new vaccine platforms.
It's a big wow for me. Oh, there's also cross-pollination with the pharmaceutical companies that are involved in manufacturing vaccines as well.
Yeah, this is, like I said, this foundation and him, Eric Schmidt, being the head, chair of the board of this institute is a big deal.
Yep.
There's a lot of intellectual property that is going to get hooked up to AI.
To feed into
Google's AI.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. And is that going to stay in the United States?
Oh, no. This stuff is international now at this level.
What's that look like? With Google's AI and their own encryption and, providing whatever services that they provide, military level or higher level encryptions for governments. I mean, how hard would it be to diversify this information once it's being collected, once it's being worked on? Because they're going to use Google's infrastructure.
TMC, where's some of this information being collected from? People, right? People?
Well, that's an interesting question, because when you look at something like the Broad Institute, where are they getting their data sets from? Does a school like the Broad Institute have access to records and data sets that the general public would not in order to conduct advanced research?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Let's say that you have you go and send your saliva swab to 23andMe or whoever the latest company is that does it. Do you have access to all of the other information that they have? No. They'll give you back an analysis of the information that you sent them, but they have all the information from everybody. And when we're talking about, what was that last passage there? We're talking about sharing information and gaining information. What is the target? What's the target? It's certainly not a rock, okay? The prime target, maybe a tree, something alive. But by, at the absolute top of that list of targets to acquire information from and about is people, humans. What the mysteries of how we all are living day to day, all the processes in our bodies. That's the target over and over and over again. Now, is this good? Yeah, it can be great. It can be. You want to scroll down a little further?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Machine learning is transforming scientific discovery, presenting tremendous opportunities now in the biological sciences, says Dan Huttenlocher, Dean of the MIT Schwarzman College of Computing. This center is emblematic of Eric and Wendy Schmidt's visionary support of scientific and technological advances to benefit humanity. What's the state of affairs of humanity right now? Don't answer that question. We look forward to dynamic new collaborations with the center and life-changing results. Medicine is experiencing a data revolution. Now, more than ever, technology, policy, and culture are converging, enabling us to unlock the full potential of real-world data for medical innovation. Okay, real-world data in real time and 3D as well for medical innovation. Okay, let's go a little further. See what else is in there. There's more. Let's see. All right, Broad and Oxford, Turing. They talk about each of the individual institutions now. Okay, is a paragraph. And I'm trying to, before I read it, I'm trying to figure out who it is that I'm quoting it from. I don't know, but it's one of these guys. So I'll read it. We are on the cusp of a revolutionary period in which the digitization of human biology and the power of cloud computing and artificial intelligence will yield previously unimaginable breakthroughs in human health and well-being, said Kevin Scott, Chief Technology Officer of Microsoft. We're thrilled to collaborate with the Schmidt Center and the Broad Institute and bring Microsoft technology and global network of more than 168,000 health and life science partners to help drive that progress. Darn, it sounds wonderful. It's like, I'm just so thankful that they're doing this, because I know it's going to help make my life better. Right? TMC. Don't you feel better already?
Yeah, I'm doing great over here, Andy.
Feeling good, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to help drive progress to improve, make breakthroughs in human health and well-being. I'm just getting warm and fuzzy and sweaty and getting a headache.
Right.
Oh, boy. It's great. So this is really a nice press release, to solve the pressing challenges in human health as efficiently and did people 100 years ago, were people even aware that they had so many problems on a day-to-day basis? Okay. As people would get up and start their day, whatever it was, whether it was going to work in a factory or whether it was going out to, to start tending to the animals on a farm or anywhere in between. Did people know that they had so many problems that have to be solved by big organizations? I mean, I'm just thinking outside of the box. Okay. Oh, boy. Yeah. Yep. I see the eyes out there. Yep. Welcome everybody that's out there participating with us. Yep. Throw questions in. I'm watching. I have it up on another screen. Thoughts and questions, we will incorporate those into the discussion. This is all of our exploration. This isn't the TMC and Indie show. This is all of our exploration and helping to educate ourselves all. Okay, so taking the rich, it goes on and on and on. And we're going to probably skip out of this pretty soon, but it's almost at the end too. The rich interface between biology and machine learning, moving toward a genuine fusion of the two disciplines, will require an engaged and fully bilingual research and learning community. We are thrilled about the potential for the Schmidt Center to accelerate and enable this transformation and look forward to new partnerships as we continue building our community together. The impact of this can reach beyond biomedicine and inspire efforts in other scientific disciplines. TMC, maybe even in the military sphere as well. I'd be hard pressed to believe that it wouldn't. The learnings from the fusion of biology with data sciences has the potential for massive impact, informing the fields of climate science. And we got climate science in here too. Can you help me out on that? I'm really stuck on that one. How do we get climate science involved with this?
I don't know. You got biology, so I would imagine.
So
that you could,
okay. Well, I would say that the climate and biology are somewhat interactive, but I would say that Mother Earth rules the roost, because when she wants to change the climate in a big way, biology has to scramble to adapt. Just saying. Chemistry, material science, and beyond. Stay connected. Sign up for the newsletter. So yeah, that's a real earful, eyeful, and mindful of stuff there. All right. And it embodies everything that we try to tie together when we feature and illustrate various aspects of our whole cyber technological world that we're living in now, this kind of wraps it all up and really does. It's kind of like we've been working up to being able to show how so many fields are tied together, and you can see it now taking place. I don't know, TMC, I don't know if either one of us would have predicted the development of such a collaboration or an institution or a center such as this a year or so ago when we were doing some of the earlier shows. But I have to say, we aren't surprised to see this, right? Not at all. All right. What else have I got here? I got some more stuff. Well, it kind of opens us up. I think, where you thinking going where I'm thinking we might want to go, where I was thinking next?
I think you should go there.
Okay. We have that ready. Okay. Now, to clarify, that's not the one. Is that the one? No, that's not the one. I thought I had it ready. I do have it ready. I found it. Eureka. Okay. Now, this whole field that we've been talking about tonight begets the idea that we might want to start to garner some additional, well, it starts with knowledge, but ultimately garner some additional control over what's going on around us with some of these big and ubiquitous and very large institutions as it may affect us. Okay, so I'm going to put this share up here. I will say that I don't know who this individual is or who this group is, but I found the words that they wrote, and it's their words, not mine, to be rather thought-provoking and very timely. So I'm just going to put this whole share up, and we'll start right up here at the top where we have, this is in your show notes, okay? And having read this and having watched the video already, I'm just going to go right ahead and give him a thumbs up. Oh, wait a minute. I'm already signed. Well, I'll do it later. I am signed in. Okay. This is from Shad Productions. Okay. And we're going to go right down. I would like to, and not knowing this individual, but you know what? Go ahead and email us if you happen to be tuned into what we're featuring here. Our email is in our show notes, and we can be reached at cyberhumanfrontiers@gmail.com. They are working at starting a movement, and I'm going to start reading right here. And if you want, we could take turns with this. Let me get it zoomed in just about right here. And I really would like to thank this individual for starting at whatever level this little heightening of consciousness or movement is. I think it's very important. I'll start us off. A quote from George Orwell, 1984. Nothing was your own except the few cubic centimeters inside your skull. The quoted sentence conveys the idea that the mind is a kind of last refuge of personal freedom and self-determination. When the body can easily be subject to domination and control by others, our mind, along with our thoughts, beliefs, and convictions, are to a large extent beyond external constraint. Yet, now, here today, with advances in neural engineering, brain imaging, pervasive neurotechnology, the mind might no longer be such an unassailable fortress. Today, neurotechnology applications include brain-computer interface for device control or real-time neuromonitoring, neurosensor-based vehicle operator systems, cognitive training tools. And as I read every one of these, I think of the good and the not so good. There is a lot of potential good. And there's a lot of really potentially just like, who's at the control panel? Okay. All right. Electrical and magnetic brain stimulation, wearables for mental well-being and virtual reality systems. Mental decoders are capable of decoding mental states and translating them into observable outputs such as text, verbal signals, or graphic images. A couple guys I don't know. For example, Herf and Merkovic have independently demonstrated the effectiveness of a decoder capable of reconstructing speech from brainwaves. So that means that you wouldn't even actually need to speak the words out of your mouth and vocal cords. If you were speaking them to yourself in your mind, then that would probably produce a brainwave pattern and probably a signature of your identity as well. And that could possibly be fed into a computer and cause it to speak what you thought. Okay, while these advances can be greatly beneficial for individuals and society, they can also be misused and create unprecedented threats to the freedom of the mind and to the individual's capacity to freely govern their behavior. Yes, yes, and yes, this is true. TMC, do you want to read a little bit of this? Next paragraph is right there at the top. If you want.
Yeah, it matters not. I can if you want me to. I will.
Sure.
So, Rapid advancements in human neuroscience and neurotechnology open unprecedented possibilities for accessing, collecting, sharing, and manipulating information from the human brain. Such applications raise important challenges to human rights principles that need to be addressed to prevent misuse or unintended negative consequences. This proposal assesses the implications of emerging neurotechnology applications in the context of the human rights framework and suggests that existing human rights are not sufficient to respond to these emerging issues. After analyzing the relationship between neuroscience and human rights, we identified four new...
All right, so final thoughts here on this. Where are we at? I do have more stuff, you know. We got more. Let me see what's relevant to what we were discussing. Well, I do have another article. Yep. But before we go with that, okay, thank you for the confirmation. Guys, my apologies. I know what I did wrong. I had good intentions. The intention was to be able to participate in the chat on one monitor, one display, while working this with TMC on the other one. I just made a minor oversight, but we fixed it. Thank you for the heads up. I'm going to put up another one, TMC. All right. And this will be all that we'll have time for today. And, okay, this is fairly recent. This is coming from the All News Pipeline. What are we dealing with here? Okay, somebody authored this article as of April 23rd, 2021. And again, this is yet another way of encapsulating this whole discussion. And let's go back and forth reading this if you want. We were warned not to let the genie out of the bottle. And now it's too late. As human genome ending technologies are unveiled before our eyes, scientists warn the devils are in the details. Okay. All right. Well, certainly has my attention. I haven't got the whole thing up. There we go. That's a little better. All right. So don't let the genie out of the bottle. The Institute for Responsible Technology powerfully conveys to Americans the threat to both human and environmental microbiomes, as well as the permanent corruption of nature's gene pool by lab-enhanced genetically modified organisms released into the environment. They warn in their video, and if I don't have this, I think I did put this up. If I don't have this one up in our show notes, I'll put it there, but I'm also looking right now. Yeah, it's up there. this one's in the notes. Okay. Modern gene-altering technology has the capacity to cause utter catastrophe for human beings and the plant and animal world around us. And it does have that potential. It's no lie. With every new tool or power or weapon that we have, there comes a responsibility to handle it in a way that does not cause harm. And we're really in a kind of a very interesting time now, to say the least. There's a warning within the video that says, what do they refer to as GMO 2.0? Threatening global weather patterns, creating enhanced viruses that are dangerous or deadly. And they have a number of links here. I might go to one of these. The rise of never before seen genetically modified organisms. Yep. Now, remember what gives rise to this whole thing is that whole business of what the idea of being able to read the genetic code and map it all out, and everything that we talked about earlier in this episode. So, while GMOs have long been in our food chain and in our cosmetics, the fact that globalists are attempting to sell GMO 2.0 as adding health benefits, when experts in the field, and they cite a few people, Dr. Elaine Ingham, Dr. Jonathan Latham, Claire Robinson, Kiran Krishnan, Jim Thomas, Michelle Perot, are warning of the dangers. It's evidence that the American people are largely being lied to. Well, I don't know if we're being lied to outright. I think that we're being not fully educated about the potential of this stuff. Unless you have a frame of mind already where you're skeptical and cautious and you like to do your own research and verify things for yourself, what they don't tell you, it's like, shame on them if they lie to you, but shame on us if we don't figure it out just because they didn't tell us, that kind of thing, which is a little bit of what we're trying to help in a lot of different areas with our shows here. So with modern biotechnology also leading to the creation of monsters, as End Times reporting, Pandora's box has been opened with hybrid human-monkey embryos created in a lab for the first time. Let me talk about you can donate. Okay. And I'm skipping through because you will be able to read this at your leisure in its entirety. Okay. We may have no idea what kind of new genetically modified organisms are getting into our food chain, and that is very true. As novel gene editing technologies like CRISPR and ODM take off, concerns about genetically modified foods or flavors, enzymes, and fragrances entering the marketplace unnoticed are beginning to gain traction. All right. And I still want to know the full definition of GMO 2.0. Even though consumers are asking for more non-GMO verified foods, business need to be aware of the changes coming from within the supply chain as gene editing technologies rapidly change the food industry, particularly in the United States. So we're the leader. Agribusiness has a vision of how they want food production to go, and that involves large-scale use of these new genomic technologies. Okay, so they're doing their strategic planning for future business security and business growth. And they've got this figured in as being part of that picture for them to reach their goals. It involves digital technology using drones and robots in agriculture and large amounts of data flowing in and off of the farm. This is the next stage of industrialization in the food chain. And CRISPR, the gene editing software, is very much part of that vision. Okay. As pointed out in Scientific American, the CRISPR revolution may be having its most profound and least publicized effects in agriculture. The reason is the USDA doesn't think all gene-edited crops, including the new CRISPR variety, require the same regulatory attention. And that means that companies are racing to get gene-edited crops into the food supply. It's a loophole experts say is being exploited because the USDA is enabling scientists to knock out gene traits and add in other desirable traits. And the government considers that more natural than inserting DNA from other species. So that's what there are always loopholes, right? So they're not splicing in something from a different organism. Although, where are they getting the more desirable traits from, TMC? Where are they getting those more desirable traits? If they're not taking them from another species, then maybe they're actually designing de novo, new sections of code.
I think it's both. I think it's both.
Yeah.
What's stopping them from adding?
Nothing stopping them.
Yeah.
Right. So here we go. An example, gene editing stops apples and mushrooms from browning, and it keeps oranges from greening and removes gluten from wheat. According to Synthego, a genome editing company headquartered in Redwood City, California. The devil is in the details, says Dr. John Latham, co-founder and executive director of the Bioscience Resource Project. That includes off-target effects, unintended side effects, because gene editing isn't as precise as many are led to believe. So they're zeroing in on everything to do with food and what we consume, and that's fine. That's fine. So this article takes us in a little bit of an offshoot from the central topic of it, which was, our title for this episode is Genes, the New Frontier, right? So, yeah, it is. And that's the new frontier in, everything to do with what what they grow for us to eat. All right. The powerful new gene editing tool sweeping agriculture could end up transforming the debate over gene modification. Within that 2000, I guess he's citing an article, that CRISPR technology was completely changing the game for agriculture, though it had the potential to create more and more frankenfoods, as we're warned in the video. Corporations are now tampering with nature in new and riskier ways. And I would agree with that. It is risky. The word tampering carries with it kind of an emotional charge as well. I don't want to say tampering really. This show is for entertainment, and we're not here to incite any sort of fear or stress. But they are tiddling with it or diddling with it. And I find it, I would be amazed if they were able to accurately predict what all of the results would be. Those will be found out later. Some of them might be something that we have to scramble to try to control. Okay? It's just the way it is. They can change a species by deleting genes, turning genes on or off, or even create whole new DNA sequences on a computer. I didn't know this much of this was going on, actually. It's a recent article, and it does cite resources. You can use your own discernment and draw your own conclusions. And also you can follow and read this PDF that they've got attached and watch the videos. We don't have so much time to do that tonight. So they've got gene-silenced apples, genetically modified potatoes, and more synthetic biology flavors and fragrances on their way to the market every day. Some are even marketed as natural. We're witnessing nothing less than the total genetic, I don't know if I'd say that, but genetic sabotage of humanity unfolding. Well, it's definitely a genetic takeover. It's that. Would you go that far? Where do you weigh in on this author's views, TMC? tinkering, tampering, or
it makes some good points. Makes some great points, but it's both. The science is great. It's great science, but
it is.
It's dangerous just as much as it is beautiful, and it has a lot of potential, but it's very, very dangerous at the same time.
It's very powerful.
Yeah. Fire will keep you alive, but it'll burn down the forest at the same time, Well, not literally at the same time. I'm just saying that fire can do both things. It can be incredibly disruptive, or it can be exactly what you need to keep you going.
This article was featured in the All News Pipeline, and I'm very tempted. I may regret this. I'm very tempted to click the link. What do you think? I already did it. 16 minutes long.
The pandemic offers humanity life-saving lessons, but are we listening? Here are some critical decisions that can benefit, even save our future. COVID-19 disrupted our whole planet, but it could have been a lot worse. Did you know that the H5N1 avian flu is up to 24 times more deadly than the COVID-19 virus? Fortunately, that avian flu doesn't spread easily between people. Now listen to this insanity. A few created an airborne version of that lethal virus. Although it never escaped the laboratory, more than 100 other genetically engineered microbes and viruses have escaped through accidents. So here's number one. Don't tempt fate by genetically engineering potentially pandemic pathogens. Perhaps the world finally has the result.
Well, I'm just going to stop it right there. We got two ways that we can think, okay? We can think idealistically, or we can think realistically. And technology advances. It just does. That's just what happens. I'm looking to all sources of input right now, including people participating with us out there on this live stream, as well as you, TMC. I think I'm going to leave the rest of that for people to watch themselves if they wish to. And it's because he's playing on a lot of things. I'm not saying it's not true, but he's playing on a lot of emotion here, and that is really not what we do here. We try to stay just to what it really is, and then you decide whether you like it or not. So, what do you think? Where are we at? Are we going to make it to the 22nd century?
Well, I don't know, man. I think consciousness might make it. I don't know if the human form will still be there.
Define the human form. Just like heirloom seeds, right? So you have heirloom seeds, and then you have modified ones. So there's the good and the bad. The heirloom seeds are great food for all sorts of bugs that like them, and so they get bitten up by all sorts of critters and, the weeds and stuff and all that business. Or you can design a new, better plum, tomato, apple, orange, or apricot. And boy, none of the pests will want to eat that thing. And it comes out looking perfect. And so it's much, much less costly to raise that crop. And I'm just guessing what the characteristics were. I mean, that would be, it's the pests don't eat them. But it's advantageous from a business standpoint. And so the logic that some people have about that is, well, if nature didn't put it there, I don't want it. So if the Japanese beetles and the birds don't want to eat that apple, I shouldn't eat it either, because they're smarter than maybe I am. They know. So isn't that the whole root of the entire argument about whether to modify the code of life or just leave it alone? It's just one facet of it. and talking about the code of human life, our life, modifying that. What do we do, and how do we do it?
You can't just go halfway. You got to go all the way.
Meaning,
Who knows? Who knows? If you're exploring something that's brand new and you don't really have any idea what it is, but you decide to continue, who knows what the end? Who knows what the end is?
right?
I mean, and at that point, you're touching on the classical duality of anything from a philosophical perspective.
Wait a minute. Back it up a second. We also don't know what the end is of the natural world as we live in it. Let's say that we live in it as semi-passive shepherds of Mother Earth, right? But we don't know what its long-term plan is either. So we have to go along for that ride too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, in other words, there are unknowns no matter what. That being the case, how much harm could we really do ourselves? I mean, nature could throw us a double whammy. You know, that big caldera out in the upper Midwest could blow, cause an extinction level event. Who knows what's left after that? Could happen. Nature, it'll do things. Nature will come up with a new bug that'll be a mutant of a couple of others, and all of a sudden it'll outcompete the others, and it might start eating something that we used to like to eat, but now it's eating more of it faster than we are. So how much worse are we than Mother Nature, really? At the end of the day, is it that bad?
I don't know. I think it all goes back to intent. What's the real intent? You ask individuals in a lab every day, they may have pure aspirations, pure intentions. But ultimately...
Well, here's the deal. Here's the deal. Nature balances itself, and it usually does it fairly slowly. There are only rare events. They do happen, but there are only rare times when nature does something really big and really fast. I named one of them, volcano, for example. So it balances itself. Why couldn't we also work to, well, first, we have to appreciate the existing balance that's there. But why couldn't we work within that balance and not throw it off? I'm just guessing, you know.
Yeah. I don't know. It's hard to reason.
All right. Well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lots of food for thought. Lots of food for thought. No pun intended. All right. Last words?
No, this went by quickly. So it's
well, we're going to want to thank everybody for being with us tonight, or in whatever time zone you're in, and whatever time you choose to view it. It's something new and different every week. It's kind of all around the general topics. The general topics are artificial intelligence, computers, the human being, and hence the name of our channel, Cyber Human Frontiers, the frontiers, science fiction. It is a brave new world, and that science fiction is coming true. And so, anyway, thanks everybody for joining us.